アルフィータイム It's アルフィータイムイエイやったーやったー
Yeah! 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 Yeah!
Hello and welcome to episode 34 of the Decent Wrestling Show. Make sure to like, comment, share and subscribe and click that notification bell and check out my latest videos, which include an MSK, Seth Rollins and Ancham MV, and also subscribe to my friend on YouTube, S3V3N. Let's get on with the show. NXT 2.0 and NXT UK. So NXT opened this week with Miz TV. Yes, we got the Miz on NXT, and he brought out his guests Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. Obviously, Miz was brilliant here with Dolph Ziggler. They are, well, they've been basically, I guess, friends and rivals for a long while now. So it's great to see them on NXT. Miz was over big time, so was Ziggler, and Ziggler looked amazing with the NXT Championship. And we kicked off, well, and then, guess who showed up? LA Knight. Yeah! He made an appearance to come out to interrupt Miz and Ziggler, and my goodness gracious, he was over like Rover. The crowd absolutely loved him, and for good reason, because LA Knight is a brilliant performer. They set up later in the night. It would be because Bron Breakker was not there because he left early. They set up later in the night for the NXT Championship. LA Knight taking on Dolph Ziggler in the main event. Hell yes. The opening match was Santos Escobar taking on Cameron Grimes, with the winner being inserted into the ladder match at Stand and Deliver. 3.5 stars. It was a very good match. Nice back and forth stuff. Mello on commentary was great. They set up some things for the following weeks, which was, I believe, Solo Sikoa versus Roderick Strong, I believe. And the other match was Grayson Waller versus the winner of A-Kid and Kushida, who we'll find out later. Speaking of A-Kid and Kushida, that was the next match. 3.25 stars. They only got 5 minutes really, so nothing amazing. And the finish was a little bit awkward. So we tried to do the Rey Mysterio like moonsault into a DDT, but it just looked kind of odd and just didn't really click, if you know what I mean. It wasn't bad or anything, but yeah, it didn't really click. But the match was fine, but disappointing. You know, still decent, but disappointing. Then we had Saray taking on Tiffany Stratton was up next. The match never really got... Well, Saray never really got to transform into a Warrior of the Sun. She was attacked from behind and beaten up by Tiffany and beaten in about 50 seconds. I do like that Saray can be protected in that way, and that if she doesn't transform into the Warrior of the Sun, does it really count as a loss? I know. But hopefully Saray gets her revenge soon, and, you know, if this is going to be a proper feud, hopefully they have a rematch and Saray gets to transform into the Warrior of the Sun and pick up the W. We then had Rey and Dominic show up on NXT in a backstage segment with Legado del Fantasma. That was pretty cool to see. It does look like we are going to get Rey Mysterio versus Santos Escobar at some point. Ciampa cut an amazing promo in the ring. It did very eerie promo. It kind of sounded like he was retiring, sort of. But, well, not really. It's hard to explain because it could have just been his last time in NXT and he's moving up to the main roster, or he's retiring. He didn't really make it very clear, but it was still a great promo, and you know, he got to say thank you to everyone. It definitely does seem like he's leaving NXT. after Stand to Deliver. But Tony D'Angelo came out and he looked like he was going to hit Ciampa in the back with a crowbar, but he didn't, and because he had respect for him. And they set up a match for Stand to Deliver, because Tony D wanted to throw down with Ciampa at Stand to Deliver, and then hit him with a low blow and gave him the kiss of death. Great segment, and hopefully Tony D'Angelo picks up the win at Stand to Deliver and he gets put over huge, and that's going to be a hell of a match, and I'm super pumped for that one. Very good stuff, just a great all-round segment. Also on the show, it was teased that Gunther and LA Knight might be having a match at Stand Deliver, but I guess we'll see. We then had Indy Hartwell and Persia Pirotta in a match. I give it 1.5 stars. Only went a couple of minutes, was nothing special. Indy picked up the win. I think Persia's the better superstar in my opinion. It was a bit awkward, and then after it, they had made out with their respective men. The only funny thing was Dexter's thumbs up. That was pretty funny. We then had Raul Mendoza taking on Dominic Mysterio, and Electra Gonzalez came up on the apron at one point, respectfully. 2.5 stars. Pretty fun match. Only went about 3 or 4 minutes low. The Redneck crew of Briggs Jensen and Fallon Henley got involved, and I believe Rey Mysterio laid out Santos Escobar. Dominic picked up the victory. Good stuff, and looks like we'll be seeing more Mysterios on Raw, on NXT, sorry. And yeah, very happy with that. Cora Jade was tormenting Toxic Attraction. She set up traps for Gigi and JC, but Mandy saw through them and beat up Cora Jade and left her laying with Toxic Attraction. We then had some stuff with the Creed brothers setting up a 3-way match at Stand to Deliver with Imperium and MSK, which is going to slap heavy. And it was also set up that the grizzled young veterans would take on the Creed bros next week. I assume if grizzled young veterans win, they'll get inserted into the match. But we still didn't find out who really attacked the Creed brothers. The main event was LA Knight, taking on Dolph Ziggler for the NXT Championship. 3 3/4, a great match, a really awesome main event. LA Knight's selling of his ribs from the Last Man Standing match last week was great, and that played into his loss as well. So Ziggler did pick up the victory, but LA Knight loses nothing in this because he was injured going in, and we got a great match out of it. And after the match, Bron Breakker came out, punched Robert Roode in the face, and challenged Ziggler to a match at Stand to Deliver. And that's going to be one hell of a match, and I expect Bron picks up the victory and wins his NXT Championship back. But overall, another great episode of NXT 2.0. NXT UK. There was 4 matches that took place on NXT UK, and also next week, or also in the future, it was set up Noam Dar versus Mark Coffey for the Heritage Cup. So the 4 matches, the weakest match was Aaliyah James taking on Stevie Turner. I gave it 2.5 stars. It was a fine match, but Aaliyah James picked up the win, and Stevie deserves better than this. The main event was the next best match, which was Roderick Strong taking on Wolfgang. I gave it 3.25 stars. The ending kind of came out of nowhere. Roddy doesn't really have an established finisher, but it was a good match. He won with like a knee thing. He called out Ilya Dragunov after the match though, and that is going to be a classic. Nina Samuels took on Amelia McKenzie in a much longer match than I anticipated. I thought it was going to be like a 3-minute squash match, but they actually got 8 minutes and had a very good match. I gave it 3.5 stars. I really thoroughly enjoyed this one, although Amelia picked up the win over Nina. But these two worked really well together, and NXT UK needs more Nina. And the match of the night was Tyler Bate taking on Oliver Carter. 3 3/4, a great wrestling match, as you're going to get with these two. They went great back and forth. They got a good amount of time. It was very fun back and forth encounter and high energy. The only down point was the finish. It was a bit odd with Trent Seven and Ashton Smith getting involved, leading to Carter picking up the victory, which I didn't expect. Bate looked very frustrated with this. It definitely, I'm telling you, Bate and Seven in a match is going to be happening soon. Well, not soon, but at least this year. But yeah, it was a fine episode of NXT UK with 2 really fun matches and a solid main event. Smackdown. Roman Reigns opened the show. The Tribal Chief opened his show and cut another amazing promo. Paul Heyman was brilliant here. He's an absolute master, and he said that Brock Lesnar was not here tonight, and then his reaction, his priceless reaction when he found out that Brock actually is here tonight, and Roman and co got out of there in a hurry. But Brock Lesnar was they'd gotten their SUV, but Brock Lesnar came in with a forklift. Yes, he came in with like a forklift and smashed the SUV and tipped over the SUV. Don't worry, the Reigns news has got out and they commandeered another vehicle. But Lesnar tried to get him out of that and ripped the car door off of his hinges. He then came out the ring with the car door and cut a nice little promo about wanting Roman Reigns' blood. Excellent 25 minutes of television. Brilliant start to SmackDown. This feud is lit. We then had Lethal Lovers, Los Lotharios, taking on Nakamura and Rick Boogs. 3 1/4 stars, a very fun opening match. Always good to see Lotharios get some TV time and have a TV match. And Nakamura and Boogs pick up the win as they go to WrestleMania. Rick Boogs is awesome. He was brilliant here. Crowd loved him. Great to see. Good opener. We then had a 6-man tag, which we were meant to have last week, as Drew McIntyre and the Viking Raiders, which would make a badass faction, as my friend Rayful Champ on Twitter said, took on Happy Corbin, Jinder Mahal and Shanky. 3 stars. It was actually a pretty fun match. And as I said, Drew and Raiders worked well together. And Corbin was very good in this, and his facial reactions were very funny. We then had Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley taking on Mid Nomi and Sasha Banks. I'll be honest, I didn't watch this live. I was asleep during this match. But I did see that Natty and Shayna Baszler attacked after the match and have been inserted into the tag match at WrestleMania. Good to see Natty at WrestleMania. She definitely deserves it. We then had a segment with Pat McAfee cutting a great promo. And he was forced to apologise to Austin Theory. And he did the kind of backhand apology, like, I apologise, I'm sorry that that I beat your ass last week and all that. Great segment between these two, and I'm hyped for this match. Theory and Pat, they have done a great job of building this one. I'm super pumped for it. And speaking of a match with a great build, Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville. Sami Zayn was frustrated backstage, and he wants to make Johnny Knoxville in his match at WrestleMania anything goes. Now it's going to be interesting, even more so. Ridge Holland and Kofi Kingston had a solid match, 2 3/4. Ridge Holland picked up the W. Butch is very fast, by the way, and he very easily angered. But Ridge picked up the win in a solid match, and I expect Woods will probably be returning very shortly, because I believe he's back on the house shows. And then the final segment I didn't watch, but I see that Charlotte Flair beat up Ronda Rousey. Okay, I guess. But before then, I didn't watch the final segment, but before that, SmackDown was pretty fun. Decent show. Monday Night Raw. It was a pretty fun episode of Monday Night Raw. We kicked off with the glass shattering and Stone Cold's music hitting to a massive pop. And then Kevin Owens came out dressed as Stone Cold. And it was a beautiful moment. You bastard, Kevin. You bastard, coming out like that. Trolling the audience. He cut a promo on Stone Cold, and then it sounded like the glass shattered again, and he was being interrupted by Stone Cold. Only to troll us again. You mother fricker. God damn you, Kevin. God damn you. But, very entertaining opening segment, and he failed to catch the beer. To which point he then probably stunned the guy who threw him the beer. But a very entertaining opening segment. We then had the Mysterios taking on the Dirty Dogs in a pretty fun match. Seth Rollins came out midway through it to cut a promo about what he's going to be doing at WrestleMania, but his mic got cut off. Then we continued the match after the break, and it was pretty fun. I gave it 2 3/4. Dominic pinned Bobby Roode, even though Roode is facing Bron Breakker the next night. I guess someone had to lose, but Dominic could have taken the pin really, but you never know. After the match, though, was the best moment as Miz took Rey Mysterio's mask to a huge heat, and I mean huge heat. The crowd were pissed at this. Miz then cut a promo backstage, great promo backstage. Miz is just brilliant on the mic, absolutely love hearing him speak, and Seth is going a little insane. It was announced that Roman Reigns would be on Raw next week, clashing with Brock Lesnar, so Roman the GOAT on Raw next week should be interesting. Omos took on Commander Aziz and Apollo Crews in a 2-on-1 handicap match, and this was actually a lot of fun. I gave it 3 stars. I actually really enjoyed this. It's pretty good from Omos here, and credit where it's due. He's improving. Had a really good performance, really dominating performance, and this was pretty fun. And he hit a 1-arm scoop slam on Commander Aziz. God damn, that was impressive. Yeah, pretty fun stuff. He then cut a promo afterwards. It looks like he's going to have a match at Mania, probably against Bobby Lashley, which should be pretty fun. But yeah, improvement from Omos over the weeks. Good stuff here. AJ Styles then came out, and he was cutting a promo on Edge. Then Seth Rollins came out. It was then announced that, much like last week with Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, Rollins would take on AJ Styles with the winner going to WrestleMania. So it could have been Rollins versus Edge or Styles versus Edge. We'll see. But this was a really well done segment, and Seth Rollins was brilliant here. Zelina Vega and Carmella were fighting backstage. This led to Rhea and Liv Morgan taking on Natalya and Baszler. They only got a couple of minutes. It was fine. I gave it 2 stars. Baszler picked up the victory over Liv Morgan. I wish they got a little bit more time. Zelina then came out with her scepter beating them up as Carmella was with Corey Graves screaming her head off. Zelina looked amazing here, by the way, respectfully. And it looked like Carmella and Zelina were going to fight, and then they hugged it out. They trolled the audience again. A lot of trolling the audience, and it was great. Becky Lynch came out, and the heat she got was amazing. And she cut an excellent promo, a really well done promo. Becky Lynch usually cuts fire promos, and this was no different. And she definitely looks like we're setting up for a hair versus title match at WrestleMania. Which, if it gets announced, then if it wasn't guaranteed that Bianca's winning before, it's definitely guaranteed now. Maybe it'll be hair versus hair. I would actually be down for that. Of course, again, Bianca has to win no matter what. But that could be pretty fun, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see what's going to happen, but I think it will be hair versus title. It was finally announced that Veer, the GOAT, the God himself, will be making his debut on April 4th. And everyone better cheer their lungs out for Veer. The best of all time is debuting. I can't wait for it. We then had Austin Theory taking on Finn Balor. I gave it 3.5 stars. This was a very entertaining match, and what made it even better was Pat McAfee came out for commentary, and he was brilliant here. So much energy, he's so funny, and he was trolling Austin Theory throughout the whole match, and he cost Theory the match in the end. Great stuff here, really entertaining stuff. We then had Bro taking on Shush, as RK Bro took on the Alpha Academy. Gable got some more mic time, which was good to see. And these two had a decent match, and we always love to see a good Randy Orton hot tag. And RK Bro picked up the win because they're the champions. They should be winning this match. But it was a fun match. Again, wish it got a little bit more time. But hey, they're going to do a 3-way at Mania with the Profits, who attacked them both after the match. Only disappointing thing was Gable did land on his head, and that was a bit iffy. But, hopefully he's okay. We then had the piss break stuff as the 24/7 stuff, and yeah, this is lame. Apparently it finished in a replay, which is just so much how they care about this. Go back to R-Truth with it, and the I-95 Intercontinental Kentucky Highway South Championship. That stuff was golden. R-Truth was golden with it. go back to him with it, because he's actually really good at this sort of stuff. He can make anything work. Then the main event was Seth Rollins taking on AJ Styles, and I gave it 3 3/4. A great main event. The finish was a bit lame because Edge came out and attacked Styles, but I guess Styles had to win somehow, and they didn't want to pin Rollins again after he lost last week. But I would have liked to see a clean finish, but hey, it is what it is. It was still a great match, great main event. These two killed it, had a great back and forth encounter, and it looks we're getting Edge and Styles at Mania, and Seth Rollins had a hissy fit and went insane after the match, throwing stuff, destroying the set. And yeah, definitely looks like we're getting Cody and Rollins at Mania. Well, Cody will have one great match on his return to WWE, and it looks like it will be his first one and only one, because Seth Rollins can pretty much pull a great match out of anyone. He could probably have a classic with the Great Khali. He's that good. So Seth Rollins has been killing it, and I saw some Seth Rollins slander, and I just can't get with that. Seth Rollins is one of the best performers in the world today, from in-ring to character work. He's got the charisma. He can play serious. He can play funny. He can play heel, babyface. He can make you love and hate him. He can do everything. Seth Rollins is an A-class performer, and we're blessed to see a performer like him in today's age. But yeah, pretty fun episode of Monday Night Raw, which has been very improving. Raw has been really good this year, like consistent as well. Like even when like in the last couple of years, even though I've enjoyed Raw, it's not been consistent. You know, maybe one great episode and one weak episode, one great episode, a couple of weak episodes and a great episode. But this year, it's been steadily, they've caught fire and they've kept it going. And I'm hoping it's going to keep going. Next week's Raw, we have Miz and Rey Mysterio, which should be good. And Lesnar and Reigns, which should be good. So, yeah, could be another good episode of Raw. And it's going to go home to Mania. And then, of course, you've got the night after WrestleMania, which is always special. So it looks like, yeah, this could be a great year for Raw. We're already in March, 3 months in. And I can't say there's been a bad episode of Raw. Then, like, the weakest one was probably like a 6 out of 10. Like, it's been pretty good. Enjoyable stuff. TJPW Grand Princess took place on the 19th of March. There was 8 matches that I watched. I think there was another 2 matches on the card, but I didn't pay attention to those really. I'll probably watch them to give them, but just not interested in either match. But let's get right into the show. The one big issue on the show was the commentary. We had 3 commentators. We had the great Chris Brooks, the great Balianaki, and then we had Hiroshi, the wrestling journalist, again, and he just sucks at commentary. He is abysmal, and like the amount of times he spoke over Aki and Brooks, who were just trying to commentate on the match, or if they make a joke and he just like butts in and ruins it completely. It's just so annoying, and then he goes on forever and ever with his sentences, and it's just like, dude, no one cares how many matches this person has had at this stage of her career. Oh, she's had 73 matches and won 52. I don't care. No one cares, mate. Shut up. Let Aki and Brooks commentate, because they actually know what they're doing. You don't. Stop it. Stop bringing him to these shows. He's not good at it. No one likes him. No one likes him. He's not good at this. I'm sure he's a nice guy. Okay. He doesn't need to be commentating. Just stay out of it. Stay out of it. It actually got so bad that I actually had to switch over to the Japanese commentary. And what a world of difference it was. It was so much easier to watch than with him, because he was just taken away from the match and frustrating everything. Just stop bringing him to this show. Right, negativity out of the way, let's get on to the main show. We open with Arasuzu, the amazingly fun team of the Bee and the Zebra, and they took on Moka Miyamoto and Juria Nagano, making her debut. She came out in a nurse costume, but still did the os pose with Moka, because she's karate and a nurse. But she looked really cool here, and this was a pretty fun opener. I gave this match 3.5 stars. The only issue was the finish. Suzume's ring a bell RKO sort of thing didn't look particularly clean. But other than that, everyone impressed in this, especially Juria on her debut. She looked very comfortable in the ring, had some cool combinations and great stuff, and I really thoroughly enjoyed her performance. She did great. Moka did great. Endo did amazing. She was moving at 2 times the speed. and Suzume did well except for that finish. But other than that, very good opener, really enjoyable, good start to the show. The next match was TJPW taking on Ganbare Pro. TJPW's team was led by Now Kakata with her amazingly catchy theme song. They teamed with Haruna Neko with a new costume which looked great, Mihiro Kiryu with another new costume which looked amazing, and the final member of the team was Kaya Toribami. And they took on Ganbare Pro led by Yuna Manase in jeans and a white shirt, teaming with Yuri, Harukaze, who is always amazing by the way, and Moeka Haruhi. I loved Aki was just fanboying over Haruna Neko, as everyone should. You should cheer for the cat. And this was a really great match. I know a lot of people didn't really enjoy this match as much as me, but I gave it 3 3/4. Maybe I'm a bit biased because it has some of my favourites in there with Neko, Yuna, and Harukaze, and now Kakata. But I really enjoyed this one. It was a great back and forth. I do have an issue with Ganbare winning though, because unless they're going to bring Ganbare in more times, you're kind of just defeating your own people. And that happened a lot in this show, like every guest beat the regular TJPW person, which just kind of is a bit iffy, you know. It's like, hey look, watch TJPW, all our wrestlers are weaker than every other wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have that take place, or if you're going to have multiple guests, you need to win one, and this is one they could have won. Yuri could have taken a pin, or someone else could have taken a pin. Didn't need Ganbare to win this unless they're going to continue it in the future. But it was a really fun match. Harukaze, I believe, got like an injury, so she wasn't in it much, but what she did was great. She hit a nice spear at one point. Yuna Manase was brilliant, so was Now Kakata, and I really loved that Haruna Neko and Moeka's stuff. As when Haruna was doing her scratches, Aki was all for it, and then Moeka did it, and all of a sudden it was illegal because it's not cute enough. But yeah, great match, and Yuna Manase picked up the victory in the end. And yeah, great match. We then had Veni taking on Kamiyu, Yuki Kamifuku versus Asuka Veni. Veni came out with a very sexy dancing entrance. Again, both these, Veni and Kamiyu, elegance, beauty and talent. And Kamiyu came out on a motorcycle backstage. She didn't come out to the ring on it, but she came backstage on a motorbike with like leather under helmet. She looked cool as hell. And then she went stripped down to her wrestling gear, and then went to smoke, thought better of it, but then drunk some alcohol. Okay, but brilliant entrances from both of them, and this match was really fun. I wish it got a lot more time than it did. It only got like 9 minutes. It needed to go like 14, probably. Give it an extra 5 minutes to really hit those strides, which is why I only gave it 3 3/4. I wanted to give it higher, but just they needed more time to really deliver. But what they did deliver was a really fun match, and it felt like two best friends fighting. Kamiyu was using her tactics of distracting her opponent by calling Benny's hair very cute and stuff like that. And she teased doing a suicide dive, but then didn't. Very, very fun stuff, nice back and forth, and Kamiyu looked good in defeat here. Really cool moment was when Kamiyu went for the Fame Mouser from the top rope, but got hit with a powerbomb. And I believe she kicked out of that, but then she was promptly pinned after that. But great match. Veni picked up the W, but Kamiyu looked good in defeat, and hopefully we get another match between these down the line, and more teaming of Venue. More Venue on TJPW is always a good thing, and a great match. We then had Yuki Aino versus Nodoka Tenma, and this was quite disappointing, to be honest. I gave it 2 3/4. I wanted to like this, but the match was just nothing special, and the ending just came out of nowhere and was very flat. And again, they only got like 8 minutes. It really felt like a filler match, really, which is not good for like one of Nodoka's last big matches. You know, she's getting to face her sister, and it just fell completely flat. The entrance was cool. They both came out to like a live entrance. It went on a little bit it went on longer than the match, I think. But yeah, very disappointing performance here. I can't spin it as being great, even though I wanted to. We then had Hikaru Shida taking on Hikaru Noah. And again, they only got like 7 or 8 minutes, and it was fine. I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. Noah did some good selling of selling her back. She went for a super kick but couldn't connect because her back was injured. That was good. But other than that, there was nothing really special in this match, and it was just kind of there. Again, it was fine. Nothing special, nothing out of this world. Speaking of fine, the next match was for the International Princess title. Maki Ito defended her title against Yuki Arai, and again, it was fine. Match was okay. Nothing special. Went about 5 minutes too long. And again, it was good, but nothing out of this world, and nothing you need to really go out of your way to see. There was a bit of an iffy moment about Yuki Arai not really selling one of Ito's biggest moves. Didn't really like that much, but yeah, I don't think Yuki Arai's ready for this big spot of having like a 15+ minute big match. It was just good, but nothing out of this world. The 2 main events, however, delivered as the show started off well and then sort of trickled off, but it was picked up and saved by the 2 main events. One of which was for the tag titles as Maji Rabi defended against Haku Chamu. Haku Chamu had an amazing entrance. I loved it. And this match was insane. They went hard. They went full paced for like 15+ minutes. Didn't slow down at all. Went all in. Miyu Watanabe was the MVP not only of this match but of the night to that point. She absolutely killed it with her double slam and her double swing, which just looked better than ever. The best swing she's ever done, in my opinion, hands down. That was brilliant. The only way she can top that is if she does one on Aja Kong. But yeah, one hell of a swing that was, and one hell of a performance from all 4 here. Even though I'm not the biggest Maji Rabi fan, credit where it's due. This was a great match. When they don't try and do their silly comedy and they focus on their wrestling, they can do magical things. And this was a magical match. 4.5 stars. A superb match. Probably my match of the night. I liked it slightly more than the main event. This was a great match. Go out your way to see it. But the main event, no hating on this. This was a terrific match. Miyu Yamashita defended her title against Shoko Nakajima. Oh, by the way, Maji Rabi won. I wish Haku Chami won, but that's the only down point of that. But anyway, back to the main event. Mio taking on Shoko for the Princess of Princess Championship. 4.5 stars. This match went hard. This went insane. Shoko's selling of a kick from Miyu's dive. Brilliant. Brilliant. Brilliant selling from Shoko there. There was one scary part where Shoko, she did a dive, looked good. She then did a front flip dive and nearly landed on her head. Again, Shoko, slow it down a little bit sometimes, because when she goes super fast, some scary stuff can happen. But luckily she was okay, and they had an absolute banger of a match. Great back and forth action. Could have ended at any point. There were so many great near falls and heart in your mouth moments, because I really wanted Shoko to win. But in the end, Shoko did pick up the victory and became your new Princess of Princess champion. And what a moment for her. I'm glad she gets to reign again as the champion, and hopefully she has a decent reign with it, holds it up until Wrestle Princess 3, then drops it to someone new that isn't... There hasn't been a Princess of Princess champion who's debuted after 2016. That's got to change. I think 3 people you can look at to win the belt, and I swear to God, if they put it on Yuki Arai just because she's well known outside wrestling, she's not ready for it yet. Maybe down the line she will be, but not yet. But I think the 3 people that should be considered to take the belt later this year is Miyu Watanabe, Yuki Kamifuku, and an out there pick in Suzume. Maybe Suzume's the least likely. Even now Kakuta would be a great option, but I'm definitely leaning towards Kamiyu or Miyu Watanabe. But yeah, Wrestle Princess, or whatever, Grand Princess, sorry. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. It was a very good show. I wouldn't say it was like amazing or anything, but it was still a great show. The pros for it were obviously the 2 main events, which delivered big time. Veni and Kamiyu and the TJPW versus Gambari match and the opening match, and just the presentation in general. The negatives were Aino and Nodoka's flat match. I didn't care for the Mizzou match or the big tag match with the Neo-Bishiki gun. The commentary wasn't great, and a couple of the matches, Shida, Noah, and Ito and Rai weren't really worthy of this card. But overall, I'd say the positives outweighed the negatives, and it was a pretty good show. Solid stuff here. Nice work from TJPW here. And I would say it delivered. We got a new story about Jeff Hardy and his leaving of WWE last year, with the incident where it looked like he was on drugs, and then they asked for him to go to rehab. He declined and then was promptly released for it. So it seems to me, from the wording that Jeff Hardy's using, that he kind of did it on purpose. So he left his co-workers high and dry in a match because he didn't like his position on the card, when he could have just asked for his release to Vince. And considering he was released shortly after this, they weren't against releasing him if he wanted to be released. So kind of a horrible, unprofessional dick move from Jeff Hardy, and any respect I had for him has just dissipated into the wind. He just does not seem like a good person to be around, but he gets a free pass. Very unprofessional, very hard to work with, and you just wouldn't... If I'm in the wrestling business, I wouldn't trust him with my life at all. I would not want to get in there with Jeff. I wouldn't trust him at all with my life. Because you have to trust someone with your life to have a match with them, but I wouldn't do that with Jeff. Bloody hell no. And especially not after this, now that he, walked out on his colleagues mid-match. It's just super unprofessional to do, and just don't do it. Just ask for your release. If you're not granted it, then I can understand being a bit annoyed with it. But just ask for it. I know people say, but Ali asked for his release and he never got it. He asked for it on Twitter. That's also unprofessional. If Ali asked for Vince for his release backstage, like normal, like pretty much every other wrestler does, chances are, if he wasn't released that day, probably in a few weeks he would have been released. But I think that he did try to do it on Twitter was kind of just a stupid move on his part, and that's probably why he's still under contract. I don't think they'll keep him on contract for 2.5 years, but I don't know, 6 months as punishment, probably, maybe, something like that. But yeah, just unprofessionalism running rampant, and it's people think they're entitled to everything, probably Jeff Hardy thinks he's entitled to everything. You're not entitled to anything. You have to earn everything. And maybe that's a problem in today's society, that everyone thinks they're entitled to this and that. They're entitled to have their lives catered to. The world doesn't work like that. Get over it. Bad stuff has to happen. Get over it. In my opinion. And I thought it was just very stupid of Jeff Hardy to do that. And to put people... He gave his friends, his family and his co-workers scared. He got them scared for his life because he faked being drugged up. Like, what kind of person does that? What? It's just ridiculously stupid. And yeah, I'm disgusted with Jeff Hardy. And it's not going to take away from his legacy that he's left. But yeah, calling me not a fan anymore. More people should leave the way or react to their leaving of WWE the way that William Regal did. Because William Regal did it the professional way, the smart way, and everyone loves William Regal for a reason. He's just a stand-up person. He's had mistakes in his life, and even he'll admit that. He could have been a world champion. He could have been WWE champion in 2008 if he stayed clean. But, he made mistakes in his life, and, he's owned up to them. And he just seems like a down-to-earth, really cool person. Unlike Jeff Hardy. So there has been some comparisons made on Twitter. One that's closer than the other one. One's just ridiculous. So the one I saw was Seth Rollins versus Adam Cole. Personally, I know one of my friends would disagree with this, but personally I prefer Seth Rollins. Just had more big moments and favourite moments and big matches with Seth Rollins than I have Adam Cole. But at least there's a comparison there. They're both phenomenal talents and can be at the top of the game. But there was one comparison that just made no sense. People were trying to compare MJF to The Rock and saying that MJF would wash The Rock in a promo. That just would not happen. You put MJF and Rock in a promo, do you know who the fans are going to be behind? Even if they're both playing, let's say they're both playing their regular, let's say they're both playing heel characters, right? People are going to be behind The Rock. Why? Because he has that electricity, that charisma, there's that untouchable it factor. While MJF is very talented, he is nowhere near the level of The Rock. Not even close. And, like, just someone said that because he's younger than The Rock, and it's like, Rock in 1998, when MJF was the same age he is now, like 26 years old, The Rock was on top of his game, on top of the wrestling industry. You know, it's like, there's no comparison there. Like, MJF is good, but he ain't Rock good, and there is no comparison there. And I swear Twitter makes some people absolutely delusional, especially AEW stans who just, you know, if there's a good talking segment or match here, it's the best in 25 years. Like, I saw wasn't there like a MJF CM Punk promo, the best promo segment in 25 years? It's like, you know, 24 years ago, or 23 years ago, is the This Is Your Life segment with Mankind, which is one of the most memorable segments of all time, one of the most watched segments of all time, and one of the most iconic segments of all time. It was better than that? Get out of it. No one will remember it in 2 years. That's with all these, this is the best thing ever. I guarantee you, within 2 years, you will never talk about it, think about it, ever mention it again. Because it's not iconic. There's a reason people still talk about Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25 today. Because it was iconic and brilliant. But no one will be talking about, I don't know, MJF versus CM Punk. In 5 years' time, no one will remember that. It's just a fact. There's no comparison there. Some worrying news for Ice Ribbon. But some good news first is that they've got like an English show on their YouTube channel, hosted by the amazingly sweet Yappy, who's doing a great job of recapping the week for Ice Ribbon, and is doing a good job of hopefully getting more English fans into the product as it becomes slightly more accessible with the YouTube show. Although the pay-per-views are still going to be Nico Nokia, I think, which is just end that deal and go full on with the YouTube, or get your own streaming service, because it's just Nico is just a crappy site. But the bad news is that Tsukasa Fujimoto is taking a leave of absence, probably for quite a while. It's expected to be May 4th, or it could be as late as July. But basically, by the summer, she'll be gone. Along with Tsukushi retiring on May 4th, meaning that their roster is down to 12 people. 7 of which are rookies. So this is their roster currently. Asahi, who is not particularly great. Banya Oikawa, who is a rookie and is still learning. She's fun, but she's nothing amazing. Hamika Hoshi, who is okay. She's actually lost a lot of weight recently. She's getting better, but again, she's nothing special. Ibuki Hoshi, who is brilliant. So they have one. Let's go. That's number 1 of their brilliant wrestlers they have, is Ibuki Hoshi. Keiho Matsushita, who is a rookie, and she seems to be quite a good rookie, but again, she still has a lot to learn. Kiku, who is again a rookie in her 40s. She's probably not going to be around very long. She's not particularly great, but I admire that she's trying to do this in her 40s. Maika Izaki, who is great, so that's their second great wrestler they have. Now Ishikawa, who is a very good rookie, still got a lot to learn, but she could be something in a year or so, but I'm not going to put on the list of great wrestlers just yet. Saran, who is 12 years old and is a rookie, she seems to be pretty decent, but again, she's nothing great at this moment. Totoro Satsuki, who is okay, but nothing special. Yappy, who again is a rookie. She's very good, but I would say her best assets are everything else she does outside the ring. She does so much for Ice Ribbon that it's great to see. But in the ring, she's still fun as well. Yuki Mashiro, who is also a rookie, she's not, she's very good. Again, she's like Naoya Ishikawa. She'll get there in a year or so. Same with Keiho. But literally, they have Ibuki Hoshi and Maiko Ozaki as their great wrestlers, and that's all they have. It's not looking great for Ice Ribbon. Stardom. Some news and notes from Stardom from 2 of their shows. I believe they took place on the 12th and 13th of March. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. So the 12th of March show, at least I assume, there was actually 8 matches that took place, more than usual. We opened with Momo Kogo taking on Saida. I gave it 3 1/4 stars. They actually had really good chemistry and they had a very fun match. The only wish is I wish they would have gotten a little bit more time to their match. Like 3 or 4 more minutes to really go out there and have an absolute banger of a match. But from what we got, very good stuff. And Momo Kogo is really, really developing well. And it's so great to see Saida back. We then had again the Cosmic Angels against Donna Del Mondo. I'm just so sick of seeing this same match over and over and over again. I gave it was 3 stars, it was fine. Wack was awesome in this one. She's really developing well. I'm so happy to see Waka. She's adding new moves to her repertoire. She does a double underhook, like sort of bridging suplex now. And she does a jump into the ropes and like a face buster sort of thing. And she's also got a very unique move where she'll roll through the... How do you say it? She'll roll through the ropes, like knock the wrestler down, run into the ropes and pull them back, and then hit a drop kick. Very hard to explain it, but it looks very cool. It's very unique and it's very interesting. Donna Del Mondo then took on Stars in the next match. It was your typical Stardom match, 3 1/2 stars. It was fine. It was a good match, but nothing out of this world. We then had Momo Watanabe taking on Utami Hayashishita. It went to a 15-minute draw. Usually, I don't really care about Momo at all, and usually these draws are kind of boring, so I skipped it. Then had Saki Kashima taking on Lady C. 3 stars, it was fine. There was a nice spine buster by Lady C. Saki Kashima hit an uppercut and Lady sold it really well. And Saki picked up the win in a solid match. Azumi took on Rina. 3 1/4 stars. Rina got in a lot more offense than I expected. But this match was well paced. Azumi picked up the win as you'd expect. But it was actually a surprisingly good match. I enjoyed it. Then had Ruaka taking on Saya Kamatani. 2 1/2 stars. It was middling. It was kind of there. Nothing really happened in it. Saya Kamatani picked up the win. Didn't even hit her finisher. Just sort of okay. Then the main event was Starlight Kid taking on Miyu Amasaki, who really didn't show much more other than she did a handspring back elbow, which was pretty cool. But other than that, it was pretty much the same as the Utami match. I gave it 3 stars, it was fine. But again, nothing out of this world, and Starlight Kid picked up the victory. Then at Kurikan Hall on the 13th of March, we opened with a triple threat match as Fukugan, the stupid clown, took on Momo Kogo and Mina Shirakawa. That's more like it. I gave it 3 stars. It was actually a really fun opener. Really enjoyable stuff. And Mina Shirakawa, who, by the way, is getting much thicker in a good way recently. I've noticed that. But she had an amazing entrance. She's just an absolute beautiful lady and very entertaining because she was great in this opener. Made me laugh a lot. You just have a smile in your face when you watch Mina. For loads of reasons, and she's just awesome. And she picked up the W, which is always lovely to see. Speaking of lovely to see W's, Unagi Sayaka defeated Mai Sakurai. It was 2 1/4 stars. It wasn't a good match. It just wasn't good. Mai sucks, bro. Mai is just not getting any better. She's getting worse, if anything. Like her match with Tam, like a month or 2 ago, was really good, and after that it's just been downhill since then. But bless Unagi, she tried to carry Mai, but good God, that's a tough job. We then had Azumi and Miyu Amasaki taking on Waka Tsukiyama and Tam Nakano. 3 1/2 stars. Of both nights, this was probably my favourite. This is probably my favourite undercard match. Very enjoyable stuff, and again another great performance from Waka Tsukiyama, who again is developing at an extraordinary rate. We then had Oedo Ties taking on Stars. I couldn't care less, so I skipped it. And then Mirai and Syuri taking on Julia and Tekla. Again, I skipped it. I already watched one Tekla match. I'm not watching another. And then the main event was obviously the best match of both shows, because it was for the Artist of Stardom Championships, as Mai Himapoi took on Queen's Quest. I gave it 3 3/4. It was a typical great defense, but nothing out of this world. But a great performance from Lady C. She really shone in this match, and Natsupoi continues to be one of the highlights of Stardom of the year. She's killing it this year, and had another great match on her resume this year. So good stuff, and Mai Himapoi retained. And their next defense will be against Cosmic Angels, and hopefully the Angels pick up the victory and win those titles back. Also forgot to mention that it looks like we're leading to the end of QQ or Oedo Tai, and a QQ versus Oedo Tai loser faction disbands sort of thing. Which is kind of dumb considering you're growing your roster and you probably need another faction. But they'll probably break up QQ, and then there's 5 members more for Oedo Tai and Donna Demondo. So you probably by the end of the year there'll be 3 members in Stars, 3 members in Cosmic Angels. Then there'll be like 15 members in Oedo Tai and 31 members in Donna Demondo. That'll probably be by the end of the year. Thank you for listening to the Decent Wrestling Show. Please like, comment, share and subscribe, and let me know what you thought of the video, and put a comment below if you listen to the whole thing, which I suppose no one would. Take care.